Sam, unmute.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. All right, so hello everyone. Thank you all for coming during midterm season. I know right now it's pretty busy, but this week's workshop is pretty fundamental for your Bloom project because we're going to be learning how to design websites. So, oh fuck, sorry. So a quick roadmap of what we're going to go over today. We're going to go over what a grid is and how you use it to design layouts, why use a grid and how it changes based on what we want to design. And then lastly, this part is probably going to be the longest. We're going to go over Figma basics and we're going to learn how to finally use Figma beyond copy and pasting. So what is a grid? A grid is a guide made up of rows and columns that help us arrange content. And grids can be found anywhere, not just websites. You can also use grids to design marketing material, posters, and books. If you used Adobe InDesign before, then you're probably familiar with what layouts are. So here's an example of some Creative Labs content using grids. So on the left here is a really simple grid. So everything is contained within these red lines, and the only thing that's outside of these red lines is the logo. And then for the website, everything is contained within these red blocks. So some grid vocabulary that you have to know, and you don't have to write this down because as you start using Figma, then you'll start learning the vocabulary words pretty easily. So a column is these vertical bars, a row are these horizontal bars, and then gutters are the spaces in between bars. I only labeled the one in between the columns, but this also applies to rows. And then margin is the space on the very ends. And then a module is an area within a row and column. Today, we'll only be going over columns, gutters, and margins. So everything else you can also learn on your own at a later time. Okay, so why do we take the time to create something like this? What's the entire point? So we use it for consistency and visual hierarchy. I believe Ruth talked about it last week. And consistency and visual hierarchy are really important in conveying the meaning of your design. And it's also really important for responsiveness. And responsiveness is the ability for a website to render well on a variety of screen sizes. So your website may look good on a computer, but it may look pretty bad on a phone. So today we're going to be designing for all those use cases. So when creating a basic wireframe for a website, we don't place the completed images on right away because we want to save time, right? We want to just get the structure of the website figured out. So we use this little box with an X in it to symbolize an image. This is an image placeholder. And we place it onto the grid like this. And every time you place something on a layout grid, it is contained within some columns. So these smaller images are within 4 columns, and then this one spans the entire 12-column grid. So how do we change this desktop wireframe into a mobile wireframe? So you can just, convert it over. But now the images are too small and you can barely see anything, and this is bad user experience. We want to make sure that the images that we see on desktop are also clear on mobile. So instead of just shrinking everything, we stack them. So this image on the very left becomes the very top image on the mobile wireframe, and then everything else follows along. And now this is good user experience because now the images are very visible on the phone. So as you're designing and placing things on your layout grid, make sure you keep in mind the pixel distance. I know this looks really scary and overwhelming. I think it's just because there's a lot of numbers and colors, but it helps a lot with the development portion. So the devs that you'll be working with find this really helpful when you tell them like the size of everything. And it also helps with consistency. So as you can see, everything is 20 pixels apart, and then even here, they're 20 pixels apart. And usually we design in increments of 4, but there are exceptions, as you can see here. This is a iPhone 8 grid, and it's an odd number, so then the image is going to be odd. Okay, so the type of layout grid changes based on what we want to design. I'm not going to go over every type of layout grid. You can actually make your own layout grids. But today we're just going to be creating your typical 12 column grid, the one I've been showing for every slide. So here's an example of using a 12 column grid. This is the CL website. So as you can see, these images span a width of 6 columns, and then on mobile, they stack on top of each other. So for your website, if you want more structure in your designs, and I think usability of coding, you can use something like this. You can also not use a grid and just eyeball everything. So I placed a 12 column grid upon the Bloom website. And as you can see, nothing lines up against this grid, but there is still some consistency. So, you know, this large header is centered, all these, what do you call these? This navigation lines up on the very edge of the grid. These smaller headings are aligned with each other, and then the body copy is also aligned. And I believe we learned this during Justin's workshop, that it's good to left align large pieces of text. And then we have a website that doesn't use anything at all, and it's actually a horizontal site. You'll probably be seeing this soon. It's not out yet, but Brian and I created it in the intention for Bloom. So as you can see, it doesn't follow any grid, but there's still some consistency in the font structure. So as you can see, these headings line up, and then the body copy also lines up, and then the indent in front is the same for both paragraphs. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the lecture portion. If you guys have any questions, please drop them in the chat. If not, we can go right into the interactive workshop portion.
Sam, is the interactive portion of the workshop, is it like, do we have a Figma community for it, or?
No, I have to share it.
Okay, I'll make a copy and I can share it. Oh, we don't even, okay, yeah, it doesn't matter then.
Yeah, just make it you only. So if there are no questions, here are some things to remember when we're using Figma. Oh shoot, okay, there's a question. Okay. Is having 12 columns like the standard, or does the number of columns depend on the type of website? 12 columns is pretty standard. That's what I learned what to use, but you can honestly do whatever you want as long as there's some structure in your website. I think the 12 column grid just helps you visually place things. Yeah.
It's also like a good place to start, right, Sam? Like, I think
Yeah.
us at Creative Labs have like this idea of like, Once you know the rules, like it's okay to break them because you know where to go from it.
Yeah.
But maybe you want to talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah. I think 12 columns helps your developer also because you don't want to just place random images on a website wireframe and then tell your developer like, hey, I want this to be created. There needs to be some structure and some like pixel distance and whatnot. So if there aren't, do you have to make two separate designs for desktop and mobile, or how do you adapt it? So generally, yes, because the way desktop operates is different from the way mobile operates. So generally, what changes for mobile is that, I don't know if you know this, but there's like the hamburger menu, and it's that three lined icon that you typically see on the edge of websites. Let me see if I can pull it up. I know the Bloom website uses it. Yeah, so today we're going to learn how to adapt it. Yeah, so then, oh, my bad. As you can see this little icon over here, so when you open it, you know, there's like a drop down and it reveals the navigation. On desktop, there's no need because desktop, you have a really wide screen, there's enough space.
Yeah, and then speaking from like the dev perspective, it's really important to have like two different like designs for desktop and mobile, because if you don't, what ends up happening is it'll be up to like the developer's own decision in terms of like how they want it. Like let's say you develop the mobile one first, then they'd have to like figure out how to do the web one or the desktop one by themselves. So it's always great to have like that reference, and it makes the life of a developer a lot easier when you give them those things like Sam saying like, oh, this is how big this is, and this is how far apart it is. Um, there's another question,
Yeah.
Sam, from Andre.
Oh, what dimensions do you use for mobile designs? Okay, so during the workshop, we'll get into everything. I won't leave you in the dark. I'll teach you everything I know about layout grids. But how do you ensure a user using a mobile accesses the correct version of the website? I think this is
It's a great question.
part
I
of the
can
dev
answer it
side,
from
right?
dev. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way that the browser works is that it will see like the developer will have to have like this. It's called a media query, and basically what it is it just checks whether or not your device that's viewing it is like a mobile phone, or if it's a desktop, and it can also check how big it is. So the media query itself can be like, I want, like most of the time you have your media query to be like 400 pixels, which is like around the size of like the average phone or the average like mobile device. And then so you do like, oh, if the media that we're looking at is a mobile phone or less, like a max width of like 400 pixels, then you would do like the what is it called, the mobile design. And that's all like on the dev side, but that's exactly why you give your developer like another design, so that they can reference like everything that you have there. So if you have like a fixed length for certain things, they can put that in as a variable in their implementation.
Yeah. So today we'll just be going over like website, like desktop view, not tablet, because I'm also unsure of how to design for tablet. I haven't designed for that before. Yeah. So if there aren't any questions, we can. Arjun, I use a tablet. Yeah.
I don't even know. I've never developed for a tablet either. Like Arjun, have you? Like I've never like done a media query for tablets.
Yeah, no, I always default to the desktop design for tablet.
Okay,
Oh, really?
yeah.
I actually didn't know that either.
Because
Interesting.
I don't know, I feel like tablets are big enough.
Yeah, just make it
Yeah.
horizontal.
But there's like mini iPad. What are you gonna do?
I don't you know what? Too bad mini iPad users.
And then there's like Samsung phones that like open up. Like, how do you design for that?
You don't
So yeah, if there, oh, what? Are you gonna say something?
No, I said you really don't. Sometimes when I think I like for devs who do design, sometimes you just design for a like desktop and you just say goodbye to the mobile version.
Yeah, that is true. A lot of developers that I know, when you look at a website on the phone, it's like, please look at this on the desktop. So you can do that too for your Bloom website if you're too lazy to, or like if you don't have enough time to design for mobile, but I really recommend it because mobile is really accessible. Like everyone has a phone on them all the time, but not everyone has a laptop with internet with them all the time. So yeah, if there aren't any more questions, we're gonna go into the workshop portion. So before we get into it, here are some controls to remember. I'm sorry, I don't know controls for Windows. So this is from a Mac's point of view. So Option hover shows the pixel distance. Shift and arrow keys moves elements in increments of 10 pixels. Option drag shows pixel distance and the guidelines as you move elements. And don't worry, you don't need to memorize these right now. I'll explain everything I do as I do it, and then some design tips to remember. So make sure you design with pixels in mind, because this helps your design and this also helps your developer. And then how does your design solve your goals? I won't be teaching you this part, but make sure you keep thinking about that as you're creating your foundations for the Bloom website. Okay, so let me share this so then you guys have access to it.
Sam, is this something that we can set up a breakout room for? And then like of 10 people, if they can work on it, like we can like you do something, I can set up a breakout room. There we have like we have 5 offices on hand. We can just like split up.
Do the officers know how to use?
I know how to use Figma.
Okay, so everything you see on this Figma page, please copy and paste it. I'm sorry I couldn't get Figma community beta, like beta test community on time. So this is what we have to result to. But yeah, I'm gonna give that like how long? Maybe 2 minutes, so 5:32. Yeah, and then for breakout rooms, I'm not
We can just
sure
do
what,
the main room. That's fine too.
yeah, because these designs aren't very unique. I kind of just threw them together really fast.
If anyone's having any trouble with Figma, I see a lot of like hands right now. If you press V, you should be it should bring you to the move mode and you should be able to drag. So if you have a hand right now, if your cursor is a hand, I would switch it to yeah, press V and you'll turn into a pointer. So you can highlight stuff.
Yeah. Also, oh, this is my bad. To create your own little Figma file, just click this plus button. And then you can copy and paste everything into there and have your own little design workspace. Yeah, I think I'll do it with you guys. So Command C, if you don't know, copies, and then Command V, pastes. Okay. All right, I think we can get started on the demo. All right, so if you look at this example right here, okay, wait, go to creating a grid, that section. All right, if you go under example, I made a layout grid with actual rectangles, and we don't usually do this. Figma actually has a layout grid that you can use. So we're gonna copy this example with using the layout grid that Figma gives you. So wait, can you guys see this white area?
Yep.
Okay, so click on the plus button, and that should give you this like graph paper-esque type grid, and then click on this 3x3 grid over here, click on the drop down, go to columns, and that should give you a column grid. So if we want to make it a 12 column grid, just input 12, and boom, you have your 12 column grid. And then margins on the desktop is usually 64, so you change that to 64, and gutters are usually 20, so you can leave that alone. You can also like customize it the way you want to, as long as you tell your developer like, oh, hey, I'm going to change this to like 20, right? So yeah, so that's how you make a layout grid in Figma. Oh, do we have? Okay. Yeah, I tend to talk really fast, so if you want me to slow down, please let me know. All right, so now how do we make a layout grid for mobile? Mobile, I like to use a 4-column grid. Yeah.
Someone's asking if you can repeat that section.
Which part? This one?
Wait up. You guys can unmute yourselves if you want to ask a question or like provide more specificity.
Okay, so I didn't see how you got the columns. Like I'm trying to get the columns, but all I see is like size. So I missed that part.
Oh, okay. So click on the frame that says you try. And then when you go to layout grid, here, let me get rid of this. When you go to layout grid, just click on the plus button. And that should give you this like graph paper-esque looking grid. And then you just click on this 3x3 icon. And then once you click on it, the settings should pop up. And then instead of grid, we want column. So just click on the drop down and click on column. And then once you're there, we want a 12 column grid. And for margins, yeah, so margins 64, and then the gutter is there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Irene. So moving on to the mobile view. So for mobile, I personally like 4 columns. I've seen designers use 3, and I've also seen designers use 2. It is up to you. Oh. There's a little cross-sectional icon in the layers tab mean grid. Wait, what does that mean? Cross-sectional icon? This? This? Yeah, this one's a grid. These are columns. So up and down, and then you can also do rows. Yeah.
Sam, a question.
Yes.
When will we use grid? Or like, I understand we'd probably use like row if we're like doing something a little bit more like kind of like newspaper-esque.
Yeah.
But like, when would we use grid?
Oh, like for this? So grid is typically used for designing mobile apps. Because for mobile apps, you're kind of, I think everything is very pixel based, and you have to follow a really strict design system, but websites are more lenient, I believe.
Oh, we have some questions.
Yeah.
Julia asked, why specifically 12 columns for mobile?
You don't have to follow this actually. This is just like standard. Why do we have 64 pixel margins? Yeah, so 64 is pretty common, I believe. Also, it depends on the size frame that you're using. So this frame is 1440, right? But if you were to design for like a really big desktop, like 2 times this size, then you would increase that margin. When would you use rows? I haven't used rows for websites, but I do use like these little lines to help guide me. But I've actually never used the rows function on Figma, so. Is
I
that
think you
the
can use
website?
rows. Oh.
Oh, wait, no, wait, go.
I was gonna say, I think you can use rows like if you build out the entire thing. Like, let's say you have like, you know how you can like stretch a frame all the way down. Like the way I was thinking about it was like in terms of, I guess you could use grid in that case, but like I was thinking in terms of like a newspaper, you sometimes would want to have like your certain headings to be positioned at certain like row, like you want it to be row aligned. So yeah. Does having holy there's.
Hi, Emmy.
Michelle asks, is that the website size you usually design for? On Adobe XD, I think the website dimensions are different.
Oh, actually, this is just like, I think the biggest desktop size on Figma. So if you click this little like frame icon and you go to desktop, there's like a ton of different sizes that you can use. And it's up to you. I like desktop because the numbers look nice to me. You can also use like MacBook Pro, iMac, Surface Book. It's up to you. It's pretty flexible for websites. Yeah, of course. Okay, so moving
one
on.
more question.
Oh.
There's a question that says, does having a grid just help you space everything?
Yeah, so having a grid lets you look at the hierarchy of everything. So let's say, okay, let's oh frick, sorry, I just made a frame out of nowhere. So let's design something that doesn't use a grid, right? So let's delete all of these. Like if I didn't have a grid, like I don't know where to place my images. I don't know how big images are supposed to be. So it's just me going on a whim, right? Like if I didn't have a grid, then visually this design does not look great because there's no consistency, everything doesn't align. So I think an important thing is alignment and having everything look visually pleasing. So that's why we use a grid. Now, you don't have to design with a grid, but I think it helps a lot if you don't have like design principles memorized. Yeah, of course. Okay, so moving on to mobile grids. So as I said, you can use anything you want. I like a 4-column grid, so that's what I'm gonna do. So same thing, you click the plus sign on the layout grid portion, click on this little 3x3 icon, click on the drop down, click on columns, change it to 4, margin 16, and gutter 16. I've also seen margins that are like 24 pixels to accommodate for like the round edges of the iPhone, but it's up to you. Also, if you use Figma Mirror, whatever you design on your phone, you can, like whatever mobile design you do, you can view it on your phone also. So this isn't going to show anything because it's a layout grid, but if I click on this and open up Figma Mirror, okay, sorry, my Figma's not working. But anyway, if you, yeah, so it's telling me to select a frame. And if I select this one, it should pop up. So like, let's say I think these, I don't know, these margins are too small. I can edit it on Figma right away. So, and then so, okay, maybe I like these margins. And as you can see, it changes in real time. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to finally placing things on the grid. So now we're gonna learn textiles. And we learn textiles because developers don't like keep track of all of these settings for us, right? So they're not going to keep track that I'm using regular bold for the heading, 96 point and 90% line spacing. So we're going to label it as header 1 because this is my biggest font. And to create that text style under text, there should be this little like, sorry, this 2x2 little icon. And then you click on it and then just add a text style. And I'm going to call this header 1. Yeah, so now when I type, and then let's say I accidentally like change font, right? Like I don't want this font. Actually, let me like change it drastically. I make it regular. Like how do I go back to header 1 without like touching these settings? I just click on this icon again, and then just click on header 1 and it changes it for me. Okay, thank you, Brian. Yeah, so websites typically have header 1, header 2, header 3, body text, and small text. If you want to see how those all translate, I made a example wireframe here. And then I kind of edited the font over there. So I'm just going to do that for all of these. And you guys might have a hard time doing it because the font may not be downloaded for you. So feel free to use whatever font that you want. Yeah. So header, oh fuck, sorry, I didn't click add. Header 3. Okay, why is there an error? Hello? Okay. Okay, I don't know why I'm running into that problem, but yeah, you get the point. And make sure you have like something like this for your developer. This is called a design system. Now, this is a really simple one, so don't take it too seriously. But yeah, having something like this for your developer will be pretty helpful when they start implementing your website. Oh. I downloaded this font from like from a company. So I'm not sure if you want to use these fonts, but you can like feel free to change it to any Google font. I know those are free, or feel free to change it to any like font that Figma gives you. Yeah.
I think it's an Adobe font. Hold on.
I think
I'll look for
Covic
it.
Sans is a Adobe font. Like, I got the demo version because I don't like paying for fonts. And usually companies give you a demo version for like personal projects, and Bloom is a personal project. You're not gonna be using it to like for another company, right? So yeah. I'm not sure if Degular is an Adobe font. Okay. Oh, thank you, Lucy. But yeah, okay. So Bloom, those are type styles. And okay, so now we're going to make this. So how do we make this? So take your grid that you used earlier, and if you see all these like dimensions, like how am I getting those dimensions? So, oh frick. Okay, why is it this? Okay, why isn't that deleting? Oh my God. Okay, so this is not deleting. Great. Anyways, so go to the layout grid that we made previously, and to get like all those dimensions and red lines, you just, as you drag, you hold on to Option, and then you can just leave this right there. Okay. Oh, you guys are answering each other's questions. Thank you.
Hope to see it. Oh my God.
That's cute. Okay. I don't know why that frame wasn't deleting, but I'm gonna get rid of these lines, and I'm gonna start placing things on my layout grid. So this is just like a super common portfolio layout. This is like the layout that you see on every template. And so most UX portfolios have a little navigation on top, and then they have a really big header, and then some image previews of their project. So going to my little makeshift design system, I'm going to grab header 1. So again, I'm just going to click on hold on Option as I drag it into this frame. And then I'm going to center it. And then you can also use these little settings on top to help you. So centering it. Hi, my name is Sam. This is my website. Yeah. So then to check the distance from the top, just click on Option and hover over, like outside of the text, and then you can see, okay, it's 333. That's not increments of 4. So if I want to make it increments of 4, I can just move my arrow keys up and down, right? And then if you're noticing, I'm moving them in increments of 10. And to do this, I'm just holding down Shift as I press on the arrow keys. Yeah. Okay, so now I want to work on the navigation. Typically, I don't see like centered navigation, so we'll make a right aligned navigation. So I'm going to go to header 3 and just drag it into my artboard. No, they're not called artboards in Figma, they're called frames. I'm going to drag it into my frame. And what do I have here? Resume. So resume at the very end. And then left align it. Resume. And then earlier I said that margins are typically 64. So to check that, click on the component, and then as you can see, it's 64 as I hover outside of it. How do you move something by 4 pixels? Oh, we don't really move anything by 4 pixels. They actually move by 10 increments of 10, but to move it by 4 pixels, just I guess press your arrow key 4 times, and then to like check if you're moving it. Oh my god. Okay, to check if you're moving it, just click option outside of the text, and it should show up like these little, they're called red lines. Yeah. So after resume, there's like an about me. And I want to make it 64 apart too. And then there's also, what is it? Home. Yeah. So this is actually really big for a nav. You can feel free to make it smaller. And then as I'm looking at this, the visual hierarchy is kind of imbalanced. Like, as you can see, like there's a grouping on the right side, but then the left side is empty. So I think for portfolio sites, they have a little logo. So I'm just gonna make like a little circle as a placeholder. So then there's some balance on my website. Let me fill this in black. Okay, this is too big. Yeah, so a lot of the design process is just eyeballing. Okay, so now we have that. So I want to put images onto my portfolio website now. So I'm just going to drag this image placeholder there. And let's say I don't have space for 3 projects. I only have 2 projects. So what do I do? So you just drag it out. So now they span, like this image spans 6 columns. And then I'm going to do that on the other side too. So now I have 2 images. And to make sure they're aligned, you can use these little settings. All right, and then now I want little labels on my projects. So I'm just gonna take small text and I'm gonna put that into my frame. Center it. Project, oh frick, my bad. Project 1. Then check the distance and make it 16. Yeah, that looks okay. And then I'll do that to the other side also. And then call this project 2. All right. Okay, did I go too fast? No? Okay. So now how do I translate this onto, oh, you got questions? Oh, how did I get this dot? Okay. Okay, sorry, I'm going too fast, my bad. So to get the little circle over here, Figma lets you draw shapes. So you click on the drop down and there should be, yeah, okay, yeah, no problem. And then to edit it, like to make it black, you just look at the settings on the right side. Okay, How did you get the image placeholder frame without option drag? Oh, so if you don't want to use option drag, you can also copy it from this little design system and then paste it in. So click on it, Command C, and then Command B into your frame. Oh, did I make this myself? Oh, yeah. It's just a rectangle with 2 diagonal lines. Yeah, so if you play around with Figma, you can also like make it pretty quickly. So there's no fill in it. So I'm just gonna take out fill, add a stroke, and then using the pen tool, I'm gonna add diagonal lines. Okay, they're not aligning because I can't really see right now, but yeah. So actually in like everything you see here, like all these little visuals, I made everything in Figma. So Figma is a pretty powerful tool. I use it instead of like Adobe Photoshop and Illustrator. Yeah, so after this workshop, you can start practicing your Figma skills and really practice the pen tool. Okay, so moving on, how do we translate this desktop view into a mobile view? So taking our phone grid that we made earlier, I'm just gonna drag it here. I'm gonna put it right next to this one. Okay. So starting off with the heading, I'm just gonna put this here. And obviously this is way too big for mobile. Like it's gonna end up taking the entire screen. So just detach the style. So now you have to make text styles specifically for mobile view. So 96 is way too big. I'm gonna use like, I don't know, 64. Is that okay? And I'm gonna line up the little edges of the text to my columns. Okay, 64, I don't like 64, maybe 52. Okay, I don't like that either. Maybe if I do this. Okay, sure, I'm fine with that. So. Okay, thank you, Brian. So yeah, so maybe on my mobile view of this website, the heading shrinks to 52. And I'm gonna make that into a text style if Figma lets me. So header 1, and then mobile. Okay, nice. And then once you update something on your design, you want to update your little like design system key. So I'm going to move this here and say this is header 1 under mobile. And okay, nothing's aligning, but because I'm doing it fast, but make sure, actually you don't have to align everything, but it's more visually pleasing like that. So the line height is still the same, only the font size change. So I'm going to change it to 52, right? Yeah. And going back to this, I'm going to add the little logo on top and put it here. Now this logo is really fat on mobile. I'm going to shrink it, maybe 40. Then make sure it's 16 pixels away from the edge. And then if you want to test to see if, your mobile design looks good on the phone, use Figma Mirror and just click on this frame, and then you should get your design on your phone. Yeah. So despite having margins set at 16, I think this little dot is too close to the edge, so I'm gonna make it 24. And now I think it looks better. So yeah. And Figma Mirror changes everything in real time. So I didn't have to exit out of the app or like re-click onto this frame. I just changed it as I changed the wireframe on my computer.
Sam, real quick,
Yeah.
can you show us how we can see the prototype for the desktop view?
Yeah, so for desktop, just click on the one that you want to view, and then click this little play button. Oh, Jesus. And then here we go. And
And
you
this
should
works
be
for
able to
like,
see it.
and this works for like any frame, right? So like if I made a frame like a custom size, it would just adjust it to that frame.
Yeah, so depending on the size, sometimes Figma adds like black borders around it. Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think the nav is like really big. So if you want more attention to the nav, like definitely make it this big, but I think it's way too big. But this is just for example's sake. Thank you, Brian, for the question. Yeah. So, crap, I don't want to go over the nav. I'm gonna start putting images onto this wireframe. So doing the exact same thing as we did for the desktop wireframe, just move these little placeholders in and then adjust. Okay, 64 seems fine. And then adding the small text. Oh, frick, okay. Adding the small text. Then project 2. All right, so now let's see what it looks like on our phones. So on our phones, it looks like this. I think it looks fine. I'm content with how it looks. So, is there a way to pick percentages for fonts instead of hard coding font sizes? Oh, yes, you can. I'm not a developer, so I don't really know, but I think it's EM, right? For fonts.
Yeah, it's EM. Generally, yeah, generally, for designs, you should like hard code it, and then the developer will be able to look at like the percentage between like how wide it is or how tall it is, depending on what they think might be good. Usually, even as a developer, I just hard code it because it's a lot. It's just a lot easier to work with, and yeah, EM. There are some things with EM that are problematic. So usually I just hard code it, and if I have to increase it, you can use like JavaScript or something. The developer can figure out how to do that to make it look responsive. but the purpose of a designer is like give that initial template for the developer to like work on and work with.
Yeah.
What
How do
was the
you
question?
translate the frame design onto an actual website? So this is where your developer does that. Your developer is going to take this this little wireframe design and then implement it for you. Unless you're implementing it yourself, and that's pretty cool too. Then you have like 100% control of what you want to do.
Yeah. To maybe to explain that a little bit more, you'd probably write down. So if you notice, Sam like had that little, yeah, exactly over here. She had all these like headers of like what font they were, what size they were. You'd have those be like variables within like CSS, and then you'd use them there. But that's kind of like touching upon things that will be talked that have already been talked about in the development track for Bloom. What is EM? Someone asked a great question. Oh, or Lucy said something. I use both pixels. EM.
I actually don't know what EM stands for.
EM is like is basically it's like it depends on the font. So like the way EM works is like it is like a unit of font size. So like if the font size is like if it's like a 2-inch font, so like the way that you view it as a 2-inch font, then one EM just means 2 inches. I don't know if that makes sense. It's like relative to the font itself. So instead of like saying I want my like this character to be like this big, you'd say I want it to be relative to like the font size of the character of the font itself. So it's a unit of size. Yeah, it's a relative unit of size.
Yeah. So, okay, this just shows how important it is to have developers in the design process as well. You don't want to just like, hey, make this, you know, you want to see if it's feasible. Yeah. Okay. So I forgot who asked about like how desktop is different from mobile, but because my nav is now right aligned, I don't want to just place text like how I did here because it's just center aligned. I want to use a hamburger menu. So how do I make that? You can make your own icons, or you can also like find icons online. But for the sake of this workshop, I'll like make my own hamburger menu. I'm not sure how well this is going to turn out. But using the pen tool, I'm just going to create lines. So that's way too thin. So maybe 5, and I'm going to round that out. And then hamburger menus are usually, I think, they're like 3 lines. Okay, I don't know why 1 is, okay. I don't know if the spacing is correct. Okay, yeah, it is. So here's my little DIY hamburger menu. I'm gonna group this and call it hamburger menu. And place it in my little wireframe and align it. Okay, because this is 24, I'm gonna make this 24. So yeah, now we have this translated into this. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the way your hamburger menu animates is up to you. You can have like a page come out from the right side. You can have just like a entirely new page pop up. You can also have a drop down from the top. It's up to you. What's the difference between a group and a component? Oh, did you find out from like looking at all the little Figma features? So a group is just like a group of things, and you can make a group into a component. I don't know if we should be going over this during this workshop, but since the question has been asked, we'll do it. So let's say I want to make this into a component. And going up here, there's a little component icon, or you can also right click. Does it let you, oh yeah, it lets you make a component here too. So create a component, and this is called your main component. So let's say I make like a bunch of little hamburger menus. So whatever I do to the main component affects all the other, everything else that I derive from that component. So if I were to shrink this, the main one, then everything else will shrink also. Yeah. So this is helpful when you have to design for a lot of like, different styles. And also you don't have to, like once you make something component, you don't have to copy and paste. So if you look at your little assets folder, whatever I made into a component can be found there. And let's say I'm not over here anymore. I'm like over here. Like now that hamburger menu is too far, I can just drag it into here like that. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for this workshop. Oh, is there a way to edit one component so others are not affected? So the reason why we use components is like to make our lives easier, right? So if I decide last minute, like I don't like how big this is, so I'm gonna make it bigger, or I'm gonna make it smaller. So if you don't want that to change, then you can just detach the component. So just right click again, and then it should say detach instance. So then now when you edit this, it doesn't edit the rest.
Sam, can you go over,
Yeah.
you know how you were doing that thing with like local styles?
What?
The local styles where you're like adding the text style?
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Do you want to go over like doing that with color? You know how you can like add the,
Yeah. Yeah,
just so
color
like for everyone,
styles.
yeah.
Wait, should we be going over this right
I
now?
mean, why not?
Okay. Okay, why not? So let's say I want some like quirky color for my website. Like I'm gonna make my website highlighter yellow because that's my favorite color. And then I'm also gonna make the text not pure black. I'm gonna make it like, let's say, like really dark indigo. So now how do my devs know what color to use? All right, so going into your little makeshift design system, you can add, okay, please line up. All right, I'm gonna add color. So we can call this like this little highlighter yellow, we can call it, let's call it just yellow 1. So to add a color style, it's the same thing as text style. So under fill, you click this little icon and click on the plus sign. and call this yellow. Oh, fruit, yellow 1. And boom, that should create the style. So that does create the style, but then how does my developer know? So I'm going to make a little rectangle. Okay, and I'm gonna make it that yellow color. So as you can see, when I click this little icon here, I can just click on the yellow color. So I think typically devs use hex code. So you want to make sure you have the hex code and the label. So we called this yellow 1, right? So I'm gonna I'm gonna label this yellow 1. And then what is the hex code of yellow 1? Okay, I have to detach. Oh, frick. I have to detach it to find out. Okay, so the hex code is this. Copy paste it. And boom. Now we got the hex code. I'm gonna pick the text style again. Okay. I mean the color style. So yeah, this is how you do color. Oh yes, you can make it multiple colors like a rainbow. All right, so let's make this a rainbow. So I'm gonna get rid of this color style and change this back to white. So under fill, wait, what is a rainbow? It starts with purple. So I'm gonna make this purple. Okay, that's too much. I'm gonna make this purple and then I'm gonna add, so what's after purple? Blue. Oh fuck. Make sure you're clicking the right thing. Blue. Then green. Okay, I'm not editing the right thing. Green. And then what, yellow? Okay, they're all like mushing together, but you can like play around with these adjustments to fix it. What's next, orange? You can make your own gradients or you can like copy and paste something from online. Okay, that doesn't look like a rainbow, but yeah, here. Yeah. Okay. And then blue. Uh-oh. Okay, yeah, now this looks like a rainbow. So yes, you can make your own rainbows.
Sam, someone's asking,
Oh.
how is it gradiating? Because it seems like it's supposed to be solid.
Oh, okay. If you look here, there are little settings for your little gradient. So my base color is purple. And then as I keep adding colors, it's stacking these colors on top and it's creating a linear gradient. You can also change the type of gradient. You can change it back to solid and change it to like diamond, angular. It's up to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Could you do vertical? Oh, that's a good question.
Okay,
I have
I
no idea.
never tried that, but I'm pretty sure you can. Oh, you know what you can do? You
You can rotate
can,
it.
yeah, you can make a rectangle and have it have all these like fill settings. Oh, can you make this fill setting into a text and the color style?
I think so,
Oh,
yeah.
all right, rainbow.
And boom.
And boom. Okay, so now I'm gonna make Now I'm gonna make a rectangle, and I'm gonna have it have that rainbow fill style. So if I want to make it vertical, I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees, and then put it in my website, and then move it to the back. So boom, now we have a
And boom.
vertical gradient. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no one said design was clean. You just got to do it. Same with dev.
Yeah. Yeah, so Figma is pretty fun. There's like a lot of hidden features that you can discover. There are like a ton of forums about Figma just talking about its capabilities and everything. So you can like chat with strangers about how amazing Figma is and how great it is. Yeah, so that if there are no more questions, that
I have a quick
concludes.
question.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's really quick. For like the hamburger
Yeah.
menu, it would be the job
Yes.
of like the developer to attach like the options under the hamburger menu, right? Like
Yes.
as a designer, you just like put it there to indicate that.
Yeah, you can also design how you want your hamburger menu to animate. So let's say when I click on my hamburger menu, I want like a page to jut out from the side. So just gonna duplicate this and okay, you know what? That's fine. So I want a page to come out from the side. So I can, as a designer, I can make that page. So I want it to come out from the right side. So then like the user knows that they can close this menu with this like little peekaboo of the website. And I want to make my pop out, like let's say I want to make it highlighter yellow. And then I can start adding all of these into there. Okay. So home, about me, and resume. So you can also prototype this, and prototyping means like making it an interactive animation, but I won't be going over that. There are like a ton of videos on YouTube. So yeah, you want to, when you design, you want to design what it would look like without any interaction, and then you want to design it what it will look like if a user were to click on it and interact with it. So if a user were to click on the hamburger menu, this would pop up. So you want to make that kind of thing for your developer so then they understand.
All right, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, prototyping is really cool. If you guys have the chance to look into it, I would totally look into. I think that's like what sold me on like actually using Figma, because it's like fake coding. You kind of get to see what it actually looks like, and how to interact with it. And you just use that like play button that Sam showed you earlier. You just click on the starting frame, and then from there you can just traverse like your prototype and see what it actually looks like. It's actually pretty awesome.
Yeah, so if you look on Figma, there's like a little prototype section over here. And there are like a ton of things you can do. So I want to move this frame. I want this frame to go to this frame. Actually, wait, hold on. I want that to only happen when they click on the hamburger menu so I can animate that. Yeah. Actually, wait, let's see what that looks like. I'm just doing this for fun. Okay. So then now I can look at it on my phone. Oh, okay. Yeah, I did it. So now, hold on. Now, since I did this little thing, I'm going to click on this frame. So boom, I have that. So when I click on the hamburger menu, then like that juts out.
Ooh.
So you
Dude,
can pretty much, yeah.
I should get
You,
Figma Mirror.
you don't have it already?
Oh.
So you can pretty much do a lot of things with Figma. And having this animation like helps your developer understand exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you also press the play button in case they don't have on Figma? Feel me?
Yeah, hold on. I'm gonna answer. I got some messages here. Oh, okay. Bye, Emmy.
Bye, Amy.
Okay, so yeah, so if you don't, oh, sorry, that was my chair. If you don't have Figma Mirror, you can also do this on your laptop. So I can click on the device that I want to do. So this is an iPhone 8 frame, so I'm going to click iPhone 8. So now when I click play, so I have my little prototype here, right? And I just boop, and then it gives me this. So yeah, you don't have to download Figma Mirror. You can see everything here too, but I personally like hands-on interaction. I like playing around with my designs. Yeah.
A little sneak peek for people who stayed. All right, should I end the recording?
Yes.